How do? My name is Andrew Hancock and I am a VMware technical architect from Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I have worked with VMware since their birth in 1998, so that's been a quarter of a century now. I've been working with the VMware product catalogue. Some of my close friends say if you cut Andy in half, it reads VMware like a stick of rock from Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I have now written over 130 articles and recorded over 30 hours of VMware vSphere 7 and 8 videos for Experts Exchange, and received 40 Expert Exchange awards over the last 11 years working with the Expert Exchange community. I am currently the overall #1 point earner in the Hall of Fame. I am honoured to have been accepted into the VMware vExpert program since 2011, and I'm currently a VMware vExpert Pro for the last 4 years.
And welcome back to another episode of Hancock's VMware Half Hour. And in the next 30 minutes, let's have a little look at putting VMware Skyline Advisor Pro versus Runecast Analyzer. Now remember, of course, Runecast Analyzer is a commercial product, and it is going to require a little bit of your budget to purchase and license. VMware Skyline Advisor Pro is free and part of your support and subscription. So, without further ado, here you find me back logged in, connected to vCenter server, which is our two microserver Gen 8s, our little ProLiants, in our little lab. So I've been having a little browse around Skyline. If you watch the last two videos where I introduced you to Runecast Analyzer and I introduced you to Skyline Advisor Pro, those are the last two videos I did, and I'll put those in the description so that you can catch up. So this has been about 4 or 5 days now that I've left this over the weekend. And if you look at the last video that we did on Skyline, and of course what you got to remember is that information is being collected from your environment and it's being uploaded to VMware into their cloud, and then after 24 hours, etc., they're actually then basically showing you findings that exist. Whereas with the Runecast product, you can analyze your environment at any time, and my understanding is that analysis is actually compared against definitions that Runecast is downloading all the time from the web. So it's going to be a little bit more instant on Runecast than what it is on Skyline. That's the theory anyway, but we'll have a little look. So one of the things that I've been having a little look around, and I've been doing some comparisons, and both of them give you an awful lot of information. I think if you actually basically run the Runecast product, or I think if you plugged into Skyline Advisor Pro first off, and of course the more virtual machines you've got, the more hosts you've got, the more findings, the more issues that you're actually going to find. And I think if you actually basically sat down with the first report, you're probably going to look at it and think, oh my God, it's going to take me hours to go through and get to an environment whereby I don't have any issues anymore. However, of course, you can actually basically put little tick boxes and say hide that finding, so it doesn't actually basically appear in your list anymore if it's not applicable to you. And for instance, if we look at this before, which I touched on briefly before, that the findings in Advisor, in Skyline, as flagged Runecast Analyzer there with a problem with its VMware tools. As the VMware tools actually ships with the appliance, it's a vendor appliance, then you would sort of kind of flag and hide that so it doesn't skew your results in any way. So I've been actually looking at the two products sort of side by side, and after a lot of digging, then you can actually basically see here Runecast flags our environment and our VMs with a security advisory VMSA 20220029, which is a bit Windows VMware tools, and there's another one that I also basically found as well, which is 0019, And if we kind of go back to Skyline, this was the one that we were looking at here, and there was also another one as well. Now, I want to make something clear, that I was having a little think about VMware tools, and I was having a little think about security incidents, and I was, the other day when I was looking at Skyline, I was surprised to see that at present, it's not actually basically highlighting that we have any virtual machines which are triggering this particular security issue, VMSA 2023-0024, and I was sort of kind of saying to you that it might take a while basically to produce that finding. And then it actually occurred to me that this particular critical security issue may actually only exist in VMware tools that have been developed after the VMware tools that are currently actually in our environment. So we may not actually basically see it. Of course, as we know with code, often as code is developed, some things get fixed, some things get broken, and we can actually basically end up with other security issues. So what we're going to do today, and I'm going to speed this up in post because I don't think that I need to show you how you update VMware tools. But I'm going to do it very, very quickly, and I'm going to speed this up in post because what I'm actually expecting to see is that our Runecast low issue here and our Runecast issue here, so 0019 and 0029, I think, also disappears along with these two as well. So this is low-hanging grapes, this really. And again, you know, these are trivial. Skyline calls them. Runecast calls them low. So these are pretty low-hanging grapes, really, when it comes to crossing them off your list. And you may have noticed, and I probably really need to sort of kind of go back and have a little look at the findings, that there is another finding that has appeared, because I think we only had 10 moderate the other day. So since then, we've had another one that's actually appeared, and I'm not sure if off the top of my head I can. There's a VMware tools. That's another VMware tools one that it's actually categorized as moderate. The other two were trivial, and those basically are in DC1 and DC2. Anyway, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and update the VMware tools. This vCenter server is very, very sticky, and I do wonder whether or not this, because it's operating on, you know, we've got about 900 meg free on this particular host because we've got a single virtual machine, which is vCenter server, basically using up the majority of the resources. So I'm going to just go basically click actions. I'm going to click upgrade tools. I'm going to do an automatic upgrade. I'm going to do exactly the same with DC2. Now, of course, we have upgraded the hosts here from 8.0 GA to 8.0 U2. So we would actually basically expect to see a change in VMware tools there anyway. So I'm just going to basically do upgrade there. So I'm just going to bob off. I'm going to basically have a little drink of Pepsi Max. I'm going to bob off, and I'm going to come back when this is done, and we'll have a quick look in Runecast, and we'll have a little quick look in Skyline. So I'll be back shortly. So our virtual machines, our EE Lab DC1 and EE Lab DC2, have both now been upgraded to the latest version of VMware tools, which is actually included in 8.0 U2. And whilst VMware tools is updating, I've been having a little look around. So I've been looking at this particular Skyline issue, which was our L1 terminal fault, our CPU issue on our Intel processors. And I was actually having a little look to see whether I could actually find it anywhere in Runecast, and I couldn't. Now, that could be my bad. It could be I'm hitting the wrong button, the wrong report. But I have looked. But I'm going to reach out to Runecast and I'm going to ask that question, because you know, it's quite a serious, as far as I'm concerned, it's quite a serious finding, and it's certainly being brought to our attention in Skyline, and also brought to our attention as well if we look at the summary information on our host, which should appear, he says, or it's disappeared. Now, I did actually basically look in advanced settings, and I noticed that it's quite possible that I accidentally probably it would help if I clicked the wrong thing. It's possible that on ESXi001 that I basically did an actions and I suppressed that warning, because when I was actually looking through the advanced settings, in advanced system settings, and I have a little look at edit, and probably need to go to the very end and look at vkernel, VM kernel boot. I'm concentrating. VM kernel boot, hyperthreading mitigation, and we want to set that to true, according to the Skyline article here, true. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set these values as well to true. So that's ESXi001 queued, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing on ESXi002, and as I said, I left these deliberately a long time ago so that I could demonstrate that it would be flagged in Skyline, so that we could actually basically remediate, I think is the posh word, or fix it for this particular video. But as I said, I've not seen it trigger. Now we'll have to, so I'll do true as well there. Now that's going to require a host restart, and of course we're not going to, I don't think we're going to see those findings immediately we're not going to see that particular one fixed or disappear in VMware Skyline Advisor Pro, because as I said, it's going to take a while for it to upload that information, to ingest it, for it to do whatever it needs to do with it, and then actually basically report a finding back to you. And you do get findings emailed to you as well, because we use Skyline Pro across all our environments. What a surprise. And this morning we got an email from VMware, part of the VMware Skyline Advisor Pro, which actually basically turned around and recognized that a handful of hosts in a particular environment, in a particular vSAN cluster, I think we're on 7.03n, and I think basically there was a particular known issue, bug, which causes hosts with a memory leak or something to be completely non-responsive. So it actually basically recommended that we update to 7.0.30, which is the latest version of ESXi 7 that came out at the end of September. So you know, you've got some heavy lifting going on in the background there, which is actually advising you for free as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this on pause. I'm going to get the host rebooted, and then I'll come back and we'll have a little look at some other quick low-hanging grapes that we can actually basically resolve. So I'll be back shortly. So I'm back. Okay, so by the magic of video editing, we've restarted the lab after changing those two VM kernel boot mitigation flags to cure that security issue. And I must admit, I do get confused, but I think realistically, I think that what really happens and I did actually make a note of this at the time, that you will actually notice that your logical processors halves, because effectively, although hyperthreading is enabled, effectively it's disabled within vSphere. So before we'd have 8 logical processors here, and now we've only got 4, and the same here. Just as an aside, just in case you wonder where your logical processors have disappeared to when you enable that mitigation. And I stand corrected, because already you can see that the findings has decreased already from what we had 13 before, and now we have 9 moderate and 2 trivial. And if we actually have a little look at the moderate ones, I was searching to see whether or not that we had that L1 terminal fault finding being displayed, and it's disappeared. So ignore me. Clearly the evidence is there. You're not having to wait 24 hours if you're checking some of these findings. Changes are obviously being hoovered up by the on-premise appliance, and findings are being updated very, very quickly. So if we have a look at the trivial ones, now you may remember that trivial ones, of course, were related to VMware tools. So now we're being flagged that we've got Runecast Analyzer, of course, which we talked about being a vendor appliance. Not much we can do with that. But our Windows 2022, which is a template, and our Windows 11, which is a virtual machine, currently have that particular issue. And then if we have a look at our other VMware tools, we can actually basically see the same virtual machines are affected. So if I actually basically update tools in that, then this particular finding should completely disappear. But if I have a little look at Runecast, and I do like this, it's already actually telling us that our top issues here, one which was flagged before, the impact has been decreased, and the impact has been decreased there, which it actually flagged as major on 5 objects, because we've updated our VMware tools. So I think it's just a little bit more kind of in your face. And this was the no, it's not. I thought this is actually another critical update which has appeared recently, which is actually basically in VMware vCenter Server, which doesn't actually currently exist in our version of vCenter Server, because we're on 8.0 U2 of that as well. So I'm going to do a little bit of digging. I'm going to do a little bit of digging. I'm going to put this on pause. I'm not going to speed this up in post, because I don't really think that you need to see me updating VMware tools. It's not very exciting. But I'm going to go away. I'm going to update those VMware tools so we can actually basically get rid of those findings. So I'll be back shortly. Okay, so I'm back. Okay, so we had a little bit of fun, and we updated the Windows Server 2022, which was a template. So we've updated VMware tools here. We've updated VMware tools on Windows 11, and I've had a little look at the Skyline, and I wasn't really actually expecting it to change in a blink of an eye. I don't think so. So we've updated the VMware tools here, we've updated VMware tools here, so we should expect this finding here to disappear within the next 24 hours. And again, we've updated VMware tools here and VMware tools here. But I was just actually looking back at the VMware tools in here, which is 12.3.0, and I was actually having a little look back at this particular security issue, and it does actually basically state that VMware tools 12.x.x is affected by this particular issue, and fixed in 12.3.5. So I am still puzzled. We'll give it 24 hours. We'll wait for Skyline to update to VMware overnight. We'll wait 24 hours. We'll come back and we'll have a little look, see whether we should definitely see these findings disappear. But I would expect to see another finding appear in moderate. There was a VMware tools here that I noticed, which this is a different, this is 12.1 first observed today, Windows 11, and this is a different 2022-0024. Yeah, this is actually a different, very close. I was just looking there that I read it right. VMSA 2022-24, and the one the other day that came out was VMSA 2023-024. So the one digit different. So we would expect that to disappear as well, because we're now running 12.30, but it's 12.35, which actually fixes VMSA 2023-0024, which I'm not currently seeing in the findings, but we'll see. Anyway, so whilst we're actually looking at the findings, I was actually going to turn some of these off. So I was going to select, it's not much we can do about that in our particular lab here, removal of SD cards, USB. As I said, at the moment we're running on industrial strength micro SD cards. Hopefully they will fix the issue forever. If they don't, then I will be going back to the vendor and raising the issue with them, because that does have some more severe repercussions. Or it's something that's happening within VMware vSphere ESXi that's making it not compatible with SD cards in the way that they're being used. So I can turn off that finding, or I can hide that finding. So I'm just going to select it, and I'm just going to say hide. So that hides that finding. So let's have a look at our other findings. We've got this finding here that we're pretty certain that we've certainly mitigated against. We've updated VMware tools, so that's probably going to go away in the next 24 hours. Remote sys logging we've still got to sort out. That's an activate DRS, best practice. vSphere distributed switches, best practice. Static RP address, best practice. vSphere HA, best practice, if of course you've got licenses for it. vMotion TCP IP, best practice. Enable VM monitoring for each cluster, HA, best practice. Doesn't have vMotion activated, again, you know, that's obviously based on your licensing. So those are the findings that are currently findings and recommendations that are being shown to us within the VMware Skyline Advisor Pro. So I'm just going to switch back to Runecast, and I'm just going to log in. To our Runecast environment, and you'll definitely see that there are a lot more issues that are flagged within. Now I think I did actually kick off an analysis. Maybe I'll just do it again. So that's obviously going to go off and scan our environment, and as I mentioned before, you can see that our top issues here that are highlighted have been, the impact has been has decreased. But I'm going to actually have a little look at some of these best practices. And there was a couple of questions. There was a couple of things here that are question based. Just let me go back to, because I can actually basically tick them off. Okay, so these are questions here. So these really are just question and answers. So we can have a little look at and basically it's asking, is the host name valid? Yes, it is. Yes, and I'll just put NFR vExpert license. Save answer. So it won't flag that anymore as a finding or an issue. And I'll do the same again for number 2. Now it could be struggling here because of the small environment that we're in here, and you know, these particular hosts here really, I think, are probably at the end of their life. Just let me come back to you a minute. just as I clicked pause, it actually started to do something. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Yeah, expert license, yes. And it's actually basically telling us it's going to expire in January 28th, 2024, and hopefully by then the new vExpert program for 2024 will be well underway. And if we're in the vExpert program, then we'll get another issue of NFL licenses. If you're not a VMware vExpert and you're wanting to get hold of some NFL licenses, then vMug Advantage is a mechanism of doing that, or become a vExpert. And if you want to know how to do that and how to follow the path, what you need to do, how you apply, then just drop me a note in the comments. Okay, so that's answered, so that one should disappear. And we're going to have a little look at these other ones, and this is the same thing. It's going to ask me, is vCenter server licensed? Yes, it is. Yes, it's going to expire. Yes, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to save the answer, and we'll go through and we'll do these, and then we'll start having it. We'll start digging down. We'll have a little look at the other failed. And again, you know, we are comparing our environment against best practices, and we're also comparing our environment against cybersecurity essentials compliance profile. And I'll show you the compliance profiles that exist as well. I'm sure there is one there for your organization. So we're just waiting for that. Okay, so that's not answered. I'm sure I actually basically selected yes on that. Okay, let's just go back again. Analysis findings is definitely thought I answered that one. Maybe I'll do a refresh. So we'll have a look at this one. So again, analysis findings. For some strange reason now the edit's gone. Okay, maybe I'll log in and log out. Just let me come back a minute. Okay, so I think I was probably just jumping ahead there a bit, really, that I was running an analysis and answering questions, and I should have really waited for the analysis to actually complete. So I think things are just creaking a bit here on these hosts. And now that I've actually turned off technically hyperthreading, you can sometimes expect a performance issue in some environments, not all environments, if you actually turn off hyperthreading to mitigate against them CPU issues. So you can see there, it just quickly flashed up that one question had been answered, and you can see that these are disappearing here and they're turning into pass. So I've got one final question, which is basically telling me, is the password length is the password? Yes, it is. Standard basic security type stuff, really, that you've basically got long passwords, complex passwords. I wouldn't have thought any of this really is not understood by the majority of people basically using VMware vCenter Server today. Things are just a little bit slower than I'd anticipate. I've actually got another environment here with running Runecast, and I might actually go and have a little look at that. But anyway, whilst that's doing that, has anything really changed here? Findings and recommendations. And what we could do, just whilst I'm waiting for Runecast to, if I try and remember the IP address 168.182, we actually have a little look at the Skyline collector, and I log into that. We can have a little look at the last time. So all our endpoints are working. So an hour ago, a few seconds ago, It uploaded. It uploaded a minute ago. Again, as I said, I'm not entirely sure how quickly the information packets are sent up to VMware, that how quickly is their number crunch before that you're going to get the findings out. There's our hidden finding, and yeah, we've still got 9 moderate and 2 trivial. They've not disappeared yet. So I think that overnight, when I look at this again in the morning, that those probably would have disappeared. Anyway, let's go back to Runecast. Okay, we've got one more to answer, which is the powers of policy, and that's a yes on that. So we can save that as well. Once that's done, then we can actually dig into the other. What have we got there? 1, 2, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these are 6 comparisons against our Cyber Essentials profile. So, as I sort of kind of mentioned to you in the last video, when I was talking about Runecast, Cyber Security Essentials is a requirement or a standard here in the UK, to which insurance companies now have insurance for it. If you've passed the Cyber Security Essentials audit, then an insurance company would insure you. So let's have a little look at what we've got here. So in this environment at the moment, we've not got strict lockdown mode enabled. We've not disabled auto install. The system must be configured to restrict access to services, and we've not done that. The VMM must enforce a character password length. We've not done that. We've certainly not got Active Directory at the moment. We've not got normal lockdown, and the default root account has been enabled, so there's no access privileges. So we would have to basically look at all those. Now, disable VMware Tools is an interesting one, because it currently says that it's enabled for all these particular VMs. And there was one thing that I noticed the other day, which, with all this talk of AI recently and developing programs, etc., one of the things I actually noticed within Runecast is remediation scripts, where you can actually select a handful of virtual machines. Well, let's actually go back and have a little look at the analysis findings. So we've got auto install enabled on that VM, that VM, that VM. Those are vSphere cluster services, that VM and that VM, not on Runecast Analyzer. So you can actually get Runecast to actually generate a script for you. So if you actually just wanted to develop a script to set the isolation tools auto disable value to true, then you can click generate script, and it will generate a script for you that you can download, or you can copy to the clipboard, and then you can run that script in PowerCLI, and basically it will do that for you. It will enable that function or disable that function for you. So if your PowerShell is a little bit weak, or you're wanting to learn PowerShell, then you can actually basically get Runecast to do that for you. Now, a warning here, before you go and basically start running any of these scripts that are developed for you, then do go through them and have a little look at what they're actually going to do before they do them. Or you could also basically have it generate a script to do your entire environment like that. So just let me just have a little look at the time here. 16 minutes or so, so this might be about half an hour already. So just let me bob off and basically sort out a PowerShell session, and we'll run a couple of these scripts and see what they do. Okay, so PowerShell. So I'm just going to run a Windows PowerShell admin I've downloaded the script. Now, again, a warning here. I'm doing this on a lab. It's not production. So if everything goes Pete Tong, then that's life. But I would actually basically advise that, you know, you don't run unknown scripts against a production environment. At least actually have a little look through them. I'm not actually basically saying here that Runecast is out to get you and they're going to put stuff in Power CLI which is actually going to do damage, but just a word of caution. So I'm just going to run this remediation script that they have developed. It's going to, from what I can see, it's going to go off and connect to vCenter server with a cyan color. It's then basically going to load of VM IDs there that it's actually picked out. It's then going to loop round them all, and it's going to basically change the advanced settings to isolation tools auto install disabled, and then it's going to end. So let's have a little look, see what actually happens here. So I'm going to put in a user ID. Click OK, and let's see what happens. If we get loads of red, yeah, okay, fair enough. So it's not worked. Not found, or setting isolation disable value failed. Invalid server certificate. Okay, so in fact actually what's actually happened there is it doesn't like the certificate currently on the vCenter server, so it's not actually basically done a connection properly. Let's just resolve that so we can get this executed. So if at first you don't succeed, let's try again. This is a desktop system here which is designed basically to do video recordings. It's not one of my production workstations, and effectively it's reset to factory defaults most of the time. So let's see if we can remediate now. Connecting to vCenter server, it'll prompt for a username and password, and then hopefully we don't get any red unless I got the password wrong now. So have a go this time, and hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, so there you go. You can actually basically see that the isolation tool disable setting is being added to vCenter server 8A, Windows 11, Windows Server 2022, EE Lab, failed on that VM, and was added to that VM. You need to vMotion or Power Cycle VMs for this setting to take effect. Okay, so that's actually turned off that functionality, that script. I wouldn't have expected it really to change those on the cluster services VMs, because we're not supposed to touch those. Woo. Let me just quickly run an analysis and see whether or not that our medium secure config has disabled. And it actually turned around and said that 18.1 was passing, which was the Runecast VM had passed, but the other 8 had failed. So just have a little look at analyze findings here. So these have all been set now. Those will fail, but these should all pass now. So just let me, I'll tell you what, I'll pause this because we're only going to wait for this little swirly to go around. Okay, so I've rerun the analysis again, and you can see that our impact has decreased for disabling auto install. And if we now look at the analysis findings, you can see that the only 2 remaining are the cluster services VMs. So I can actually basically edit these and set these to false. so that we would actually basically pass here as well, which is what we actually saw with the PowerShell that was generated from the remediation script. It couldn't actually basically set that there. So a wealth of knowledge is available for you from the Runecast product. As I said before, Skyline Advisor Pro on steroids. And I just wanted to enable the other profiles I was analysing against Cyber Essentials, which is a United Kingdom government-backed cyber security program. But there are very many other compliance profiles around the world, from BSSIT to VMware SCG, PCI DSS, NIST, GDPR, Essential 8. And I've just enabled all these as well, and I'm going to click Run Analysis again, and again it will basically analyze our environment against all those profiles. Now, I think normally probably within your organization you're going to be compliant against probably general best practices, knowledge-based articles, vulnerabilities, and one compliance standard. As I said, again, Runecast, there's an awful lot in the product. I could carry on doing hours after hours and videos after videos on the various different options that we got, from Log Inspector to log kilobit articles and KB articles, capacity management, hardware compatibility, configuration vaults, measures configuration drift over your environment, so you can actually basically see unauthorized changes and changes that are actually coming. I could go on and on and on and on and on about Runecast, and also Skyline Advisor as well. So we'll come back to a Skyline Advisor and we'll have a little look, see whether or not these trivial VMware tools appear or disappear. And the same with Runecast, because I'm not seeing them at the moment in the product. So I'll basically come again, but this video is probably getting longer, I think, than probably 30 minutes. So you've probably had enough of me talking about Skyline Advisor Pro 3.5 versus Runecast. Again, as I've mentioned before, there is no reason at all that I can understand why you wouldn't want vSphere Skyline Advisor Pro 3.5 in your environment if you are licensed and you're currently paying support and subscription. If there's one product that you want to put on your wish list for Christmas, and you've got a tiny little piece of budget for it, then I would highly recommend the Runecast product. And again, it's not just specifically for VMware. It will basically tie into Azure, and it will tie into AWS, and it will tie into NSX, and it will basically tie into lots of products to do exactly the same thing. I'm a big fan. And again, if you are a VMware vExpert, the guys at Runecast will also give you an NFR license, so you can play with in your lab. So this is actually basically telling me that it has finished the analysis. I'm not quite sure whether or not it's actually finished the analysis of, just let me refresh this. I'm not quite sure whether it's done the analysis against all those compliances, but we will see. Okay, so yeah, so you can see where we stand. General bench practices, we've got 11 issues outstanding, but you know, if we look at DISA STIG, we've got 220 issues outstanding. If we look at VMware SCG, we've got 71 issues outstanding. PCI DSS, we've got 12 issues outstanding. 167 passed, failed 12. Okay, so it's been a long video. My apologies.